The Kennedys showed us what healthy masculinity looks like as a leader. However, somewhere in the last 60 years, we seem to have fallen off track. In this video, I'm going to reveal the Kennedys' approach to leadership because I feel we need it now more than ever.
He realized early on that the purpose of the CIA and the intelligence apparatus was to create a constant pipeline of new wars.
It was revealed that they planned to assassinate world leaders and fake terrorist attacks to give the U.S. reason to invade countries.
And he realized they had been lying to him and trying to trick him. And he said, I want to take the CIA and shatter it into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the winds.
JFK was surrounded by war dogs, yet he was a man of principles and had the courage to stick to his guns.
Now, Kennedy was very concerned about America's image in the third world, the developing world.
During the 1960 election campaign, Kennedy repeatedly criticized Eisenhower's administration for neglecting the needs and aspirations of the African people. Then, 3 days before Kennedy took office, this happened.
Lumumba's bonds are tightened. They were taking no chances, and his wife and child watch his humiliation. The whole affair, of course, serves to underline once again the conditions prevailing in the Congo.
The Congolese independence hero, Patrice Lumumba, was assassinated. It was suspected that the CIA and Eisenhower played a big part in this.
President Kennedy affirms the United States' belief that the success of the Congo is essential to the success of a free Africa. He emphasizes his country's strong belief in the unity of free states, able to choose their own destiny and able to decide their own fate.
He believed that the view of Americans abroad should not be, a soldier with a gun. It should be a Peace Corps volunteer building, wells, and it should be USAID helping poor people. And that's what he did. In Africa today, there are more statues to John Kennedy, more boulevards named after him, more hospitals, schools, universities, avenues in all the major cities named after him than any other president. The Chinese have taken that template and done the same thing now. And they are, all these countries that were supposedly allied with us are now realigning with the Chinese.
JFK was a great leader as he was empathic. He strived to bring people together and attempted to destroy his enemies by turning them into allies. However, this made him lots of enemies in the CIA and government.
3 days before he took the oath of office, Eisenhower, who was the outgoing president, gave what is probably the most important speech in American history, which was, where he warned against the military-industrial complex. I was at my uncle's inauguration. I was in Washington that day. And 2 months later, the military and intelligence came to him and said, we got to invade Cuba. And he said, I don't like what Castro was doing down there, but it's not the United States' job to dictate what kind of governments other countries have.
Well, first I want to say that there will not be, under any conditions, be an intervention in Cuba by United States Armed Forces.
In October, things would take a turn for the worst.
This government has maintained the closest surveillance of the Soviet military buildup on the island of Cuba. A series of offensive missile sites is now in preparation on that imprisoned island.
JFK was pressured on all sides to attack Cuba and risk starting nuclear war with the USSR.
We will not prematurely or unnecessarily risk the course of worldwide nuclear war, in which even the fruits of victory would be ashes in our mouth. But neither will we shrink from that risk at any time it must be faced.
By 1962, President Kennedy was actively engaged with Khrushchev, and they had a secret exchange of 26 letters with each other, and they were operating through back channels because both of them found themselves in identical positions, surrounded by war hawks, all of them viewing all-out thermonuclear war not only as inevitable, but in some cases desirable.
How is it that JFK went from near nuclear war to signing nuclear test ban treaties in a matter of months? I attribute this to his stoicism.
Our goal is not the victory of might, but the vindication of right. Not peace at the expense of freedom, but both peace and freedom.
JFK was able to remain cool, calm, and collected in the face of adversity. This allowed him to make the most pragmatic decisions in the most tense situations.
Every thoughtful citizen who despairs of war and wishes to bring peace should begin by looking inward. Too many of us think it is impossible. Too many think it is unreal. But that is a dangerous, defeatist belief. Man's reason and spirit have often solved the seemingly unsolvable. and we believe they can do it again.
The Russians had successfully launched the first satellite ever to circle the Earth.
During the Eisenhower administration, on October 4th, 1957, the Soviet Union launched the first satellite, Sputnik.
Heralds the dawn of a new era.
Just a month later, the Soviets launched another satellite into space, and it's got a live dog on board.
And America seems woefully behind. Their efforts at space exploration had resulted in numerous mishaps.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth.
A great leader should be a great communicator. There's perhaps no better example of this than JFK.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
So it seems to me that one of the functions of the president is try to have it move with more speed. Otherwise, you can wait while the world collapses.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
The single most important characteristic of a healthy leader is their ability to protect the people.
By 1962, reaction to the civil rights protests erupted in violence across the South. By June, progress was being made. But then Governor George Wallace took a last stand, blocking 2 black students from entering the University of Alabama. President Kennedy sent in the National Guard to protect them, and on June 11th, went further than he ever had before.
If an American, because his skin is dark, cannot eat lunch in a restaurant open to the public, if in short he cannot enjoy the full and free life which all of us want, then who among us would be content to have the color of his skin changed? Other features will be also requested, including greater protection for the right to vote. But legislation, I repeat, cannot solve this problem alone. It must be solved in the homes of every American, in every community across our country.
JFK's administration pushed for the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This landmark legislation marked a significant step towards ending racial segregation and discrimination, inspiring hope for a better tomorrow.
The fact that John F. Kennedy embraced the concept of civil rights, not just for the United States, but for the world, is the hallmark of his legacy. In fact, I would even say that it was his activities with civil rights that probably led to his death.
The area is aswarm with police, rangers, and Secret Service men. The assassin's aim is deadly. The man who became 35th president less than 3 years ago is dead.
After JFK was assassinated in 1963, his brother RFK vowed to become president to carry on JFK's mission.
And it is one of the reasons that I run for President of the United States, is to give voice and recognition to those without the power to be heard. I have seen children starving in Mississippi, idling their lives away in our ghettos, living without hope or future, and no one, neither industry, nor labor, nor government, has cared enough to help. Give us back our heart and give us back our soul. I ask for your help.
Robert Kennedy was shot at 12:15 p.m. Pacific Coast Time.
RFK, the greatest president the United States never had, was assassinated on June 5th, 1968. But his legacy remains.
Robert, you were 9 when your uncle John F. Kennedy was assassinated. You were 14 when your father was assassinated. Very formative years for such cataclysmic things to happen. What impact do you think those 2 huge events had on your life?
You know, my mom told us something when we were really young, and I said to her, does the hole that they leave in you when they die, does that ever get any smaller? And she said, no, it never gets any smaller, but our job is to grow ourselves bigger by taking the best parts of that, the best virtues of that person who died, and trying to incorporate them into your own life, into your own character.
But what do you think happens when you get into office? Like, if you're talking about your uncle who's assassinated and you believe the intelligence agencies were a part of that, what happens to you?
Well, I gotta be careful. I'm aware of that, and I'm not, I'm aware of that danger, and I don't live in fear of it, at all.